Hey, to introduce myself, I'm Ted Wood. Actual full name is Theodore. My mother called me Teddy, unless she was really upset with me and something was really wrong. Then it was Theodore. All right. Before I get into what I do and how I might help you, I want to talk about something. I have no qualifications whatever to speak about, but I've dealt with it, as you probably have dealt with it. And it is called the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 theory, meaning that 20% of your salespeople, for example, uh, bring in 80% of the business. 20% of the pea pods in your garden have 80% of the peas, that kind of thing. All right. And it's a principle that's been around for a long time. I noticed something that maybe well, certainly is troubling to me, and maybe to yourself as well. When I say troubling, not always in a bad way. I worked with this all my life and I've helped other people with it, but it's the fact that the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 theory, tends to be a fractal. What I mean by that, where it repeats itself within itself, meaning that if 20% of your salespeople bring you 80% of the business, then 20% of that 20% brings in 80% of the 80%. So it comes down to a very small percentage, 1% or thereabout, of your whole staff of salespeople are bringing in more than half of the business. So that's kind of interesting. Uh, Recently saw I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, it's women's basketball, but that's becoming more and more popular. And it's this lady, Caitlin Clark. And I'm not talking about her ability to play basketball, which is pretty phenomenal, and that's what started this whole thing. But as relates to marketing, the amount of people that she's getting to come and watch women's basketball is phenomenal. And that's where we get back into that fractal thing where it's one uh, 20% of the 20%, and then 20% of the 20%, da 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 da, 80% of the 80% of the 80% of that 80%, et cetera, et cetera. She is bringing in such a phenomenal number of people to the game of basketball. She's in that fractal, and I believe passionately that that's what it is. It's a fractal of some kind. And I'd love to hear from somebody who's qualified mathematically, who's studied this, but I've never heard it from anyone that speaks mathematics other than to call it the Pareto principle or the 80-20 theory. Well, we're going to talk about that because that's how I try to help people, is break them into that fractal to where, as an individual, if you're in business for yourself, you can really increase your business, but we got to figure out how. If you're in sales, we increase your sales, but we got to figure out how. And there's a number of things that can go wrong in terms of the fact that it irritates people when you're successful that way. All right. Uh, Talking about what I do, I've done consulting, coaching, training, sales training, other kinds of training, especially training in how to invest, investing in real estate in particular, life skills. I am a qualified, certified professional behavior analyst, but I'm also, well, I'll show you in a minute here, my qualifications as a life coach. Here, I'll show you in a minute. Um, all right, so let's go here and see if we can go down and show you some of these things here. Before I talk about that, I'm going to go right to this. This is my International Association of Coaching. I'm a masteries practitioner and certified life coach. So that's really kind of what I would like to be able to talk with people about. I spent most of my life trying to work with companies. There's a lot more money in it. But right now, I'm kind of retired and I don't care about that. And I've got room to work with another two students. I can't really work with, I couldn't possibly work with more than five. And I think three is about as many as I want to work with. So there we go. So really could only use one more. One more student unless I go over my limit. And I don't want to do that. All right. Uh, I've written a lot on behavioral selling, real estate investing, those kinds of things. Um, I am a certified professional behavior analyst. My specialty in that is in working with salespeople to understand what your ability to get other people to do what you want them to do. And that's sales, whether you're actually being paid to be in sales or you're just trying to get other people to do what you want them to do. That's the bottom line. And I've owned the Sales Development Center, uh, owned Rapid Connections, which is a consulting company. Doing most of my work today under my company, TC Wood Consulting. All right. So we'll go into some of the things that this is my website, by the way, that I'm showing you right here. Um, these are the big money is long-term money. When we need money so bad that we're pressing to get some now and we can't think past our immediate bills, it really hampers our ability to really solve the problem in a big way permanently. It really kind of puts you in a position where all you're doing is, creating a bigger mess down the road. Let's put it that way. I love the comment when I first came to Utah. As I had come from Chicago to Utah, and I had a business that I was in that I bought into in Utah, and coming from Chicago, I ended up driving through the mountains, and as I drove through the mountains, well, the radio wouldn't work, so I couldn't listen to the radio at all. So when I came down the hill into Salt Lake City, I could turn on the radio. And when I did, I got a radio station where it was one of those interviewing people situations. And they were interviewing a Ute Indian chief from the Utah Utes Indian tribe. And he was rather an interesting guy. He was also a what do you call him? He worked with herbs and medicines and stuff like that. They got a word for it in that they call that, but medicine man, I guess, is what they call him. But he was very, very interesting, and the commentator started to wax philosophical for a bit, and then he got stopped by this Ute Indian chief who said, "I'm not interested in any philosophy of life that will not grow corn." I thought that was phenomenal. And that's really what I do when I talk with people. Really, if you're not trying to accomplish something specific, I'm not your guy. Get someone else, whatever, if you know what I mean. All right. So I want to go back down here and see what else we got. We've been there. All right. It's a common, no matter how you work it, it's a combination of consulting, life skills, and real estate investing, or some other way of making money. I have stocks and I have, real estate holdings, that sort of thing. And I've been at that all my life. And I could talk a lot about it. I'm not going to bore you with that right now unless it becomes interesting to you. But I have on Mondays, and I'll show you this here right here. This is it right here. Monday, I do a session with people where we could talk to each other and have some fun doing it. And it's not going to cost you anything. And it's a Monday. Pacific time is 8 p.m. Eastern time, 11 a.m., 9 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Central. That's kind of your time zones. If you're in Any other time zone, you'd have to figure it out based on that. But we're going to talk about inflation versus real estate and why. I mean, 2.8% was February 2025. That was the inflation rate just for that month. This is not pretty. It's always been tough, but it's not been that bad. But nonetheless, we got to talk about how does that affect real estate investing? What can we do? Where can you get money to invest in real estate if you don't have any right now, and that sort of thing. So we'll talk about that. I have a number of videos that are available. You'd have to give me a call. My phone number, I'll tell you over this. I'm not going to write it. 801-664-6147. That's my cell. And you'll get me personally. I look forward to hearing from you. God bless you. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.